not about politics, it's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. We're just going to play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
I just get in and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into It's Just Football. I'm Trevor Sikkema. No Mike Renner today. A lot of people in the chat are saying that Mike's not here today because he's too scared to face the loss of trivia yesterday. And I will say definitively that is absolutely true, and Mike is a wuss about it. No, he's not. Mike's head of the national championship. He's covering the national championship for us, so he's not on the desk here today. But, of course, I couldn't do this show alone. That's not what this show is about. So instead, we have what feels like the official third co-host for It's Just Football. It's my good friend Seth Galena. Seth, how are we feeling this morning, my man?
I'm feeling great. It's really a dream come true for me to be able to get to do the show again. I thought I was off forever after my last appearances. I thought I made a fool of myself doing those accents in the therapy session, if you'll recall. But I appreciate it. I'm back, ready to go.
I actually totally forgot about that. We might have to bring up those clips at some point if we need to, or just bring out the accents, one of the two. Guys, we have a jam-packed show here on a Friday. There's so much to talk about. We got potential playoff scenarios that came down from the NFL, the adjusted potential playoff schedule that we're going to talk about here at the top of the show. We're also going to talk about our favorite potential draft scenarios that we have coming up, some player to team connections that we really love. We're going to give you our bold predictions for what we think we're going to see this weekend, and also some of our favorite potential playoff matchups given the changes that were made here over the last 24 hours, what we think is going to happen over the next 24 hours. I do want to make sure that we lead off the show with this news. This is from the Buffalo Bills. They tweeted this out. This is the official Buffalo Bills account. Per the physicians at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, DeMar's breathing tube was removed overnight. He continues to progress remarkably in his recovery. His neurological function remains intact, and he has been able to talk to his family and care team. Absolutely incredible. That is the news and the words that we wanted to hear on this Friday as we kind of get back to talking more about what's going to happen around the NFL this weekend. That's the way that we wanted to start it. So absolutely beautiful there. Let's get the production portal guys in here to start the show. Eli, Quinn, Sav, how we feeling this morning? I asked that as a bit of a loaded question because it feels like the Bengals might have got a little bit of the short end of the stick here on this potential playoff scenario.
Eli, you can take this one if you want.
Yeah, a little upset. Just not the best way for us to handle the situation. Obviously, what matters most is DeMar's health, so it's really good that now he's trending in the right direction, but definitely sucks that we got the raw end of the deal.
It's also not official either. Bengals need 9 no votes to, I guess, overturn or whatever term you want to use. They need 9 no's. So
how much collusion do you think there's going on behind the scenes? Like, how much are they paying these other owners to vote no?
I mean, knowing Mike Brown, I would assume not much, but that's just my assumption.
Oh, boy.
I have a Mike Brown story. Did I ever tell you this guy's story? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should say it, but
is it an appropriate Mike Brown story?
No, it's appropriate. It's not inappropriate.
Because when Renner starts to tell a story, I never know what's about to come out of his mouth. So at least you saying that gives me a little bit more faith.
I don't even think Renner knows what's about to come out of his own mouth. So I was at the Bengals facility. This is 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We were doing I was still coaching football at the time, and we had access to their OTAs basically in May, I guess it was, and in their building, going to all the meetings. I was coaching linebackers at the time, so I was in the meetings with, at the time, Jim Haslett was the linebacker coach. He was showing me stuff, and Vontaze Perfect was there and all this stuff, and it was really fun. And we're in the cafeteria, and me and another coach I was coaching with at the time, the DV coach, was standing there. We're at the salad bar, and my friend is taking spinach from the salad bar, and Mike Brown is standing right there, and he's like, oh, well, what is that? My friend's like, it's spinach. And he's like, wow, you two sure know a lot about greens. And that was it. And then we find out Mike Brown lives in such a bubble that he doesn't know what spinach is. So that's why Mike Brown.
He does now. He does now because of you guys.
Yeah, we taught him what spinach is.
I'm literally calling you Popeye from now on, just because of spinach. That's your new nickname from me. I don't know if it's gonna catch on. Maybe it's just a me and you thing, but I'm gonna start calling you Popeye from now on. Can I do that? I need to hear what Quinn and Eli think of the Mike Brown story.
I think that's a rich guy move. Like if you're like a lot, like rich people live in their own kind of like universe. So I could see it.
Not super surprised.
I'm a spinach guy though. I love spinach.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I love some spinach. Rich in iron, better nutritious qualities than just regular old iceberg lettuce or romaine lettuce even, If you're throwing it on a sandwich, it's very similar in taste, yet you get more nutritious value. Seth probably changed Mike Brown's life for the better that day. That's what I got out of that story.
I'm the reason why they spend in free agency now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a metaphor. Spinach is green. Money's green.
All right, what spinach question of the day do we have here?
Well,
today
no,
to get
this
kicked
is
off?
actually a fantastic segue because
There's no way.
I wanted a Saints related question for Seth.
Oh, sure.
This is also kind of a Bengals related question. Because Andy Dalton has a chance to finish the 2022 season with a career-high adjusted completion rate. What is Dalton's current adjusted completion rate?
That's ridiculous, Mike.
What's ridiculous about it?
There's like adjusted. It's because it's like I understand that adjusted completion rate is something that is an important stat, and I understand that I have access to it, right? Like we have access to all these stats. Great,
guess.
I love
Just
it.
give it a guess.
I am not going around daily checking people's adjusted completion percentage.
Oh, you don't.
So this is
Not even
very
your own
difficult.
quarterback?
You don't know that it's 83.4%? You don't know that? Oh,
It might be that you might be telling the truth.
That's my guess.
Because you know what?
He's been dealing this year.
He's
That's
having
my
a great
guess.
season.
I think
so it might be.
I think it's got to be above 80. Now, how much above 80 it is, I'm not sure because I know like him, Jalen Hurts. Who was the other one? There was like one other quarterback that was like really up there with adjusted completion percentage, and it was those three that were right around 80. Like Hurts at one point had an 81 or an 82. Dalton, I think, had a ridiculous completion percentage. Was it last week, the week before? So I know that helped it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't last week. Wasn't it like 90 something stupid?
Well, he started the game against the Eagles like 17 for 17 or 16 for 17.
The guy's out here gaming our system. He's Ryan Tannehilling us again.
Yeah.
He must be stopped.
Mike, I have a question for you.
I'm saying 83.
Name the other quarterback to start for both the Bengals and the Saints. I assume there's only one other quarterback.
Like all time?
Yeah, probably. I mean, what are the chances that there's been more than two?
AJ McCarron.
It's AJ McCarron.
Oh,
yes!
AJ McCarron.
No, it's not.
Oh, damn it. Come on!
Yeah, because he was with the Falcons. So it was NFC South. Can I think about it? Can I cut? Because we'll answer this question
take your time.
today
Yeah,
at
we'll
the
do
end of
it.
the show.
Yeah,
I'll come up with an answer for you guys. You guys come up with an answer for mine. I'll come up with an answer for you.
We'll answer your question today at the end of the show. You got to answer ours.
Fair is fair, unlike the AFC playoff picture.
Speaking of the AFC playoff picture, what a great segue that was. That's a good segue into this. All right, chat, try to follow along here. If you guys missed it, you might need to go on Twitter to try to refresh it here, but we're going to try to give you the spark notes of everything that happened over the last, 12 hours, 18 hours of when the news came down of how the NFL is adjusting the current playoff schedule, given the fact that they officially canceled the Bengals-Bills game. So they're not going to resume the game that happened on Monday, which is an advantage to some teams, a disadvantage to others. So I'll start by saying this. Normally, when you have division teams winning the division, if you are tied in overall record, it goes to head-to-head, which is important. It doesn't just go to winning percentage, it goes to head-to-head. When it comes to other playoff seeding, it's not necessarily head-to-head, although that is involved in it, but it's winning percentage that also goes into it. When you play one less game, that's obviously a disadvantage for you, especially if the other team that you're going up against is winning a lot. For example, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to have a higher winning percentage than the Buffalo Bills are right now, just because they have played more games and won more games. So the winning percentage is higher for them. Essentially, the way that it goes out and the way that the NFL tried to make this as fair as possible for everybody is they put together neutral site scenarios for the three teams that could have potentially gotten the number one overall seed. So the scenarios, Ian Rappaport tweeted this out, and it's sort of tough to follow, but I'll try to read it out. Scenario 1 for the AFC Championship game. If Buffalo and Kansas City both win or tie this upcoming weekend, then a Buffalo versus Kansas City championship would be a neutral site game. Scenario 2, if Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Baltimore wins or ties against the Cincinnati Bengals, a Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site game. Scenario 3, if both Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and then Cincinnati wins this upcoming weekend, a Buffalo or Cincinnati versus Kansas City Chiefs championship game would be a neutral site game. Now, there's also things that go into how the Bengals kind of got screwed here with the division, because as of right now, they play the Baltimore Ravens, and the Bengals are going to be AFC North champions no matter what, but it doesn't mean that they're going to host a playoff game, because if the Ravens win against the Bengals this upcoming weekend, then that means that if they are matched up in the wild card round, it is going to be a coin flip for where the game will be held, despite the Bengals being named AFC North champions no matter what. So it gets a little bit complicated, because when you're the division champ, that means that your schedule is harder the next season. So the Bengals could be in a situation where if they lose to the Ravens this upcoming Sunday, they could have the harder schedule next year and also not even host a playoff game if they end up playing the Ravens in the first round. Seth, I want to throw it to you first. What were your overall thoughts of seeing this? It feels like it's an impossible situation where fair is going to exist throughout. But do you feel as though one team particularly got the short end of the stick, or one team got too much of an advantage? What did you think of this kind of as it came out yesterday?
I think my first thing would have been just to say, hey, we cancel the game. It's not in the records. And then we just go on from there. Like, we don't have to make all these scenarios. It happens. Like, we're hoping this never happens again, but it happened. And it's okay to just say, hey, the game doesn't count. We'll go by win percentage. And then tough luck kind of to a certain degree. Now, when you start adding all this stuff, I understand they're trying to be as fair as possible, but then you end up in situations where you're going to have a neutral site playoff game. You're going to have this coin flip thing, which that doesn't seem very fair to have a coin flip when a team is probably better. Now, the Bengals are probably going to beat the Ravens, and then we won't have the coin flip, because honestly, the way Tyler Huntley is playing right now, it's going to be tough for them to score enough points on the Bengals this week. So that'll probably play itself out. And I will say, you know, we have so many traditions in sports, in the NFL, home teams, you know, playing at home in the playoffs. It'll be fun, I think. It won't be fair, but it will be fun if we have a neutral site AFC Championship game. Whatever the teams are, you know, between Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati, whether it's in Atlanta or Indy or wherever it may be, I just think that'll be really fun. Again, is it fair to a certain team? Probably not, but I'm okay with it being fun. This is entertainment after all. So that's like, I'm kind of okay with it. The more I think about it, I was confused at first, like everyone else, just trying to read through all the different scenarios. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, it could add some entertainment value, and that's really what we're all here for.
I think that I do agree. Definitely a neutral site AFC Championship game could be a lot of fun. When I look at the proposed scenario, because like Quinn was saying, they still need to vote on it, but I kind of have a feeling that they're gonna approve it, because it's not like this is the first time the owners saw it. They probably threw this out there just to see like what fans thought of it before they voted. It's not like that was the first time that NFL teams are seeing it. They probably heard about it a ton. I think there's three levels of we got screwed for the Cincinnati Bengals. The lowest level is the AFC Championship component, where they don't really control their own destiny there. And some people are saying like, oh, they're probably going to be playing Kansas City no matter what, but they were probably going to be playing in Kansas City no matter what anyways. So if the Kansas City Chiefs still lose this weekend and the Cincinnati Bengals win, that game still goes to a neutral site game. Now, is it the Bengals hosting it in Cincinnati? Like, what could have been possible? No, but at least they get considered in that neutral site factor if they win and the Chiefs lose, which would have had to happen anyways for the Bengals to even get the 1 seed because they were a game behind. So I think that's the bottom tier of like, okay, sure, they didn't get the chance to potentially get the 1 seed to host in Cincinnati, but they still got considered for that neutral site game. The second one is the divisional part of it with the Ravens. I do think it's a little bit unfair that you are giving them the division title. And then like you said, Seth, there's already rules in the rule book that say like, hey, if a game is canceled, we just kind of go off of win percentage and then head-to-head, and like it just kind of is what it is. So this game this weekend between the Ravens and the Bengals basically would have settled it anyways. But then you get into the coin flip aspect of it. I think that that's a little unfair to the Bengals saying, hey, we're going to make you the division champ. You're going to have a harder schedule next year, but you might not even host a game. Of course, on the flip side, you could say, all right, but they're still champs. It's not like they have to coin flip for the division, so they're still division champs, and then if they beat the Ravens, they end up hosting no matter what. And even if they get to the second round, like say the Buffalo loses in the wild card round, then Cincinnati gets to host anyway. So I think that that's kind of the middle. The place that I really only have a big-ish issue with this proposed change is if the Bengals and the Bills face off against one another in the divisional round. This game's automatically in Buffalo if Buffalo and Cincinnati win this upcoming weekend. Like, it's not a neutral site game. There's no consideration. And Cincinnati could have very well beat the Buffalo Bills last Monday. And it's almost like they're just taking that completely off the table. So if you're going to make neutral site games for the AFC Championship game, I don't hate that. But I don't like the fact that this game is just guaranteed. If it's Bengals versus Bills, both of these teams win in Week 18, it's guaranteed to be in Buffalo no matter what. That's the only one that I think is really not fair about this. And if you would have told me that you just make that game also a neutral site game, I kind of would have been okay with the rest. There was going to be no perfect solution. There was going to be no perfect scenario. But that's the part that I would have liked to see. Because both of these teams had the opportunity to control their own destiny for the 2 seed this past Monday. And if you're going to create a scenario of, okay, we're gonna say if any result would have happened on Monday, we're gonna present all of that as possibilities. The one that they missed, I think, egregiously, is that divisional round game if the Bengals play against the Bills. So those are my thoughts there with it.
The only thing I'll say is like, I don't know if they missed it or they just don't want to have as many neutral site games.
I think
you know
that's
what I mean. I think that's really what they need home games. The team, not the NFL. I mean, the NFL would love neutral site games, but the owners need home games, right? The owners do not want neutral site games,
right?
So I think there was a compromise. Obviously, and I think you understand this as well. The best scenario would have been to go to 8 teams in both conferences. Therefore, the New Orleans Saints would still be alive this weekend. I think we all agree that this is the best scenario for all involved, is to get Andy Dalton in the playoffs with his super high adjusted completion percentage.
You bringing up the fun aspect of all this, that would have made it fun, because that would have also majorly complicated things, because there are players that teams have put on IR over the last week, over the last couple of weeks, who, if they thought that they were eliminated, if they didn't think they have a chance, if the NFL would have basically been like, okay, you can take players off IR if you want. So, like, you just expand the overall roster and you just say, okay, we're expanding the roster for the last week of the playoffs. You can take players off IR if you want. No penalty at all for it. There's an 8th playoff team in both conferences. All of a sudden, this weekend would get nuts. It would have gotten insane. There would have been so many players and so many teams that would have still had a chance to make the playoffs. And look, you talking about fun. That would have been maximum chaos. Clearly, they didn't do it, but...
I also think the NFL is eventually going to go to an 8-team playoff per side. Like, expansion happens everywhere, no matter what. And I also think it leads us to we don't have to have this discussion right now, but playoffs are fun. Knockout brackets are super fun. I know, once you start expanding them, and we're talking about the college football playoff, once you start expanding, we get teams that probably don't deserve it. We're going to have blowouts and all that stuff. At the end of the day, knockout sports are fun in any tournament, any type of situation. So I'm all for it. And again, my bias is shown right through to get Andy Dalton in the playoffs.
Somehow, some way. Andy Dalton's got to make it. That is Seth's one stipulation. Fair or not, that's what the people want. All right, you guys are obviously talking about this a ton in the chat. You can continue to do so as we move on a little bit here because we do have a lot of other things that we want to talk about in that show. But we wanted to make sure that we laid it all out for you. Those are our thoughts. We'll kind of check back in on the chat if you guys have different scenarios. But that's kind of what we thought. That's how we were breaking these things down. Let's move a little bit more towards the draft because we're going to get into playoff scenarios in a second. We'll get back to this, but we'll give ourselves a little bit of a break here because just like there's only one more week for teams to make the playoffs and to get certain places and seed themselves correctly, it's only one more week for us to speculate on what the NFL draft order is for these non-playoff teams. So everything's about to get solidified here. The teams that are picking in the top 10, obviously they're going to be around that area. So with Seth being on the show for the first time in a while, I wanted to open it up. Mike and I talk about draft all the time. Seth, when you look at how the NFL draft is shaping up here with 1 week left before the final order, what's an NFL draft scenario that you love? A certain trade, a team maybe getting to a certain spot, a prospect to a team fit that you love? We're each going to give two, so what's your first one here? What's a draft scenario you love?
So, the two that I had, one of them is kind of a broad thing. And I'll start with the Minnesota Vikings selecting a cornerback in the first round of the draft, and that cornerback being Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. Oh. And specifically because, and you can put a lot of teams connected with Devin Witherspoon or any other corner who can play press. Witherspoon is a great press corner, doesn't allow many yards, many completions. You can see it right there, 92.5 coverage grade, 89.8 in press coverage this season. The thing with the Vikings, the defense, everyone was yelling at the defense. Oh, they don't press. They don't do this. They don't do that. They're allowing they're playing too much off coverage. Receivers are getting free releases and all that stuff. Well, they don't have the corners for it. Like, yes, we would all love to everyone sits there, everyone presses a receiver, and then we lock down the receivers and then we allow no passing yards. It's not possible if you don't have the guys. Peterson used to be a great press corner. He's not that anymore. He's not going to be that. He's obviously good in off coverage, but you need a guy maybe on the other side of things to play press covers. And I think Witherspoon would have been great for that. You can put him. I think maybe the Lions could be an answer there. They like to play a lot of man coverage. Mm-hmm. They've gone away from it because they don't have the corners for it. But that clearly is what they want to do. So putting him there would be great too. A lot of other teams like that need a press coverage player, and Witherspoon is that player.
Reading off some suggestions from the chat as well. Daniel saying Bijan Robinson to the Ravens. Drake saying C.J. Stroud to the Seahawks. Ooh, I thought they said Falcons originally. Stroud to the Seahawks. No Geno love? Come on. Jets 1 says Levis to the Colts. Daniel's also saying Darnell Washington to the Ravens. That could obviously be one that goes right in line with what they like. To the Devon Witherspoon point, would love to see him on the Vikings. I think I had him going to the Vikings in my latest mock draft. I think it's a perfect fit. I just wonder if this point...
did you? No, I didn't read that at all. No,
okay. Okay. Yeah. Right.
At all.
No, but I think I'm wondering if Devon Witherspoon lasts until 27 now at this point. You talk about the Lions. He's climbing.
He's going to rise up, yeah.
He is so good. This past year was so good. And I really do think that him going as top 20 selection might be a little bit more realistic. But you mentioned the Detroit Lions is another landing spot for him. They're picking, I think, 17th with that second overall selection right now. Yeah, they are. So they have the pick in the top 10 as well because of the Rams selection. So they have number 6, number 17 right now. That number 17 overall pick, if Devon Witherspoon is there, that totally makes a lot of sense for them. Here's a draft scenario that I like. And if we've got any Houston Texans fans in the chat, I'm sorry, but I'm here for fun. I'm here for chaos. I'm here for entertainment. If the Houston Texans beat the Indianapolis Colts this weekend and the Chicago Bears lose to the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears will hold the number 1 overall pick. and they don't need a quarterback. And that is not often the case with teams that are picking at the very top. They've got Justin Fields. Justin Fields has looked really good down the stretch. No, he's not quite there as a passer yet, but you have seen the highs of what this guy can do and the talent that he has. That number 1 overall pick will be for sale in a way that we get to talk about for months. You would have teams like Houston then sitting there at number 2, potentially Seattle if they wanted to move up currently at number 3, the Falcons at 7, the Raiders at 8, the Panthers at 9, all of these teams that would be looking to move up to go get a quarterback at number 1 overall. We have talked for months about Bryce Young going at the top of this draft to the Houston Texans. Bryce Young has not even been a thought for teams like the Falcons, the Panthers, the Raiders, all of those teams that have needed a quarterback. But the second Bryce Young actually becomes available, or for sale, I should say, at number 1 overall, the mock drafts are gonna sing. The scenarios that we get, what the draft compensation is gonna be for it, how many first-round picks, how many day 2 picks, how far a team's gonna be able to move up, what the realistic spot is for them, how far deep can we go? I mean, Washington, right? Washington's a team that might need a quarterback. They're picking outside the top 10. Do they mortgage a ton to go all the way up to number 1 to go get Bryce Young, right? There's so many different conversations that we get to have. And as somebody who writes a lot of mock drafts, Houston picking at number 1, they're going to pick the same guy every time. They're just going to pick the same guy every time to start the mock draft. And then we're going to talk about, all right, well, what's Chicago do at 2? Bryce Young's off the board. If everybody's on the board at 1, the possibilities of what this NFL draft could be would be endless. And so, again, I'm sorry to any Houston Texans fans out there, but I'm rooting for chaos. I'd love to see what happens if Chicago gets the number 1 overall pick.
Kind of piggybacking on that, do you think, someone in the chat, like you said CJ Stroud to the Seahawks, I think. Do you think, let's talk about the Seahawks and the Jets. The Seahawks and the Lions, who each have 2 picks in the first round, and each have a pick in the top 10 with an interesting quarterback situation. Do you think either of those teams go quarterback with that first pick?
No, if a team does, I've got to think it would be the Lions. I would have a really hard time thinking that the Seattle Seahawks are going to move on from Geno Smith. I think they're giving Geno Smith a decent-sized contract this offseason. I think it is going to be pretty heavily front-loaded. Like, it's going to be obviously the closer that we are to this great year that he's had, the more money that he's going to get. And maybe 2 years they can move on from it if he doesn't turn out to have the longevity that they want. So that's what I see from Seattle. And with them picking number 3 overall, they need a major defensive playmaker along the trenches especially so bad. So like Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, you're getting one of those 2 guys no matter what.
One, yeah.
At number 3. That makes it feel like Seattle, I would say no. Detroit could think about it at 6. I think Goff has played well this year. He's still thrown more turnover-worthy plays than he has big-time throws, and I do also think that their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, goes a lot into his success, much like Brian Daboll's goes into Daniel Jones. So I'm a little bit wary of Jared Goff, but at the same time, I think the Lions could get away with not drafting quarterback with either of their first-round selections this year, rolling with Jared Goff next year, seeing what it's like, whether they got Ben Johnson or not, and then you could actually pretty easily move on from Jared Goff's contract next season. You could go pretty aggressive for a quarterback if you wanted for that. So that's my immediate thoughts for those 2 teams. What do you think?
Yeah, the Seahawks for sure. Geno is the guy, period, end of discussion for me. There's no doubt that, and the roster is like good enough. You've hit on some picks this season. Obviously, the 2 tackles continuing to grow. They haven't played well the last couple months or the last month, but 2 tackles continuing to grow, protecting Geno. I think they'll be fine with Geno. He's looked good. I mean, I know that the play hasn't been outstanding over the last month of the season, but it really does correlate with the tackles just getting killed the last couple. Like I said, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks hasn't been very good. So I think Geno's fine there. And then I agree with you with the Lions in terms of, is Goff the future of this franchise? No, I don't think we should do this again with Goff. We kind of know what he is at this point. Certainly possible that he makes this unbelievable change in the offseason or this is part of his change. I don't really see it. I think, like you said, Ben Johnson, the offensive line, the receiving core, that's really shaping up to be a really interesting receiving core, very complete receiving core with the addition of Jameson Williams this last few games. I think you could go quarterback there. I think you have this kind of extra pick. Obviously, there's a lot of holes in that defense, especially. But I think you could go quarterback there and then see what you have in Goff. Let this guy sit on the bench for a season and then go forward. I just don't think Goff is really. I think it's possible that Goff just regresses again next season.
Yeah.
And now you're like, man, we had this window of opportunity with this really good situation, and we kind of missed it. So I think you have that extra pick to go quarterback.
Yeah, I do think that it's tempting, right? I think I have gravitated towards going defense back to back with the Lions' two first-round picks this year. But certainly what happens with Ben Johnson, I think it will go a long way into that, how much I'm trusting Jared Goff. Because, look, obviously, like, Goff has been better than I think a lot of people believed that he was going to be. He's got over 4,000 yards passing. He's got 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. But for our more detailed metrics, like I said, he's got only 15 big-time throws compared to 21 turnover-worthy plays. So he still has more turnover-worthy plays than he does have big-time throws in that offense. And so it's just something to think about if you have the opportunity to take a quarterback and one is on the board. All right, what's your second favorite draft scenario that you have here?
Even though the Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Of course, yes.
Even though.
Yes, of course.
I think they should trade up in the draft. And I'm afraid to say it out loud. I might get fired from PFF for suggesting a team trades up in the draft. But I'm willing to go out on a limb here. I just think the Chargers need an elite player somewhere, specifically on their defense. Again, they could even go offensive line again, like they did the past 2 seasons in the first round. Just think they need someone like who can really ball out. So, hey, let's go trade up. I know it'll cost them a lot because they already traded, I believe, a second-round pick for Khalil Mack, who's been, not very Khalil Mack-like this season. So I'm willing for them to go out there, get a stud corner, get a stud linebacker. Like, I don't know, interior presence, anything for me would be great. You could even go and get like a Jordan Addison type of player, even though, he maybe fits in the Keenan Allen type of mold, but Keenan Allen will be 31 next season. So honestly, anything. I just want the Chargers to trade up and really go get a good player on defense to pair with Derwin James and Joey Bosa, or an offensive player to kind of help protect Justin Herbert. So
the Chargers currently have the 25th overall pick. I think there's a world that exists where they could trade up just a little bit and still get a really good corner in this draft. There are good corners to choose from.
There's a lot of corners.
Keely Ringo, Christian Gonzalez, you mentioned Devon Witherspoon, Joey Porter Jr., right? And that's just kind of off the top of my head. I mean, like there's a lot of guys to have at corner that could be really good for them to pick up. The dream pick for me with the Chargers last year, outside of Jordan Davis, obviously I think that would have been great as well with them getting Jordan Davis in the middle, was Jameson Williams. Like if they could have acquired Jameson Williams, I think that passing offense looks completely different with his speed and his ability to win vertically. This year, they're kind of in the same scenario. They love an interior defensive lineman. They love a wide receiver with speed who could take the top off of defense. There's not really that major difference-making guy that they could get there, unless somebody out there thinks that Jalen Hyatt is going to have that same similar success at Tennessee that he had at Tennessee, that he's going to have at the NFL level. But for as fast as he is and as good as he was vertically this year, I do think the system helped him out a lot in that regard. Playing in a lot of stack alignments, a lot of free releases, things like that, just being able to get his momentum going. And then the route tree is also pretty limited if he's not just like getting vertical. It's just straight vertical stuff. It's outs, it's comebacks, it's go balls. And so, not that Jalen Hyatt can't be a great player. It's just, are you drafting him in the first round? Is he going to be that big of a difference maker for you? That's my questions with him.
Yeah, I think Hyatt is a classic, like late second round, maybe early third round guy, because the elite trait is there with the speed. But, in terms of like well-rounded football player, we just haven't seen it yet. I mean, anyone who comes out of this offense, we said it last year, but the quarterbacks who are all playing in this type of offenses, now we're saying about Hyatt playing receiver in this offense, like we just don't know. It's like really, and we just don't know. We want to project as much as we can. We just don't know. He's open all the time because the scheme gets him open.
Right.
But like I said, the speed, you can't teach it. So you have something there. It's just not, for me, it's not a first round type of player.
Yeah. I think he's I think he's a day 2 guy, but that's just kind of how I've seen him. Somebody in the chat asked, what is Geno Smith's big time throws to turnover worthy play rate? Because we were talking about him as well. I think it was Cole who asked this one. So remember, Jared Goff had 15 big time throws and 21 turnover worthy plays. Geno Smith's got 32 big time throws and 24 turnover worthy plays. So he has a little bit more, but he's got more than double Jared Goff's big time throws. So he's doing a lot more with his arm. He's a catalyst in some of the big plays that they have in the passing game. So that's just a little bit of a sign of something to think about there. The last draft scenario that I have, this would be hilarious. I don't know if it's going to happen. Eagles, I am sorry to say, Seth, have your New Orleans Saints first round selection. It is number 10 overall. I would kind of love to see the Eagles get like super aggressive while everybody else is fighting for quarterback spots. Like there still could be a reality that exists where quarterback goes 1, maybe quarterback even goes 2 as well. So we're getting into like picks 3, 4, 5. Jalen Carter could still be on the board. If the Eagles have an opportunity to trade from, let's say, number 10 to number 4 with the Arizona Cardinals, give the Cardinals number 10 and their last pick of the first round, wherever it is, 30, 31, 32, whatever it's going to be. Cardinals then get 2 first-round picks to start rebuilding that roster the way that they need to. Eagles get to move up to go get Jalen Carter to continue to go aggressively all in on this roster while Jalen Hurts is still on a rookie contract. Like, I also love that scenario. And I don't really see a lot of people talking about the Eagles moving up. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be because the way that they've built their draft strategy has been about trading back, getting future draft capital, being able to have that flexibility. But having this flexibility is important. Capitalizing on it in this way to get a player like Jalen Carter and put Jalen Carter next to Jordan Davis again in the NFL with the Kobe Dean behind them as well, I will add. I think it would be a good strategy. So I've thought about that scenario, and it's hilarious. It's chaotic, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's amazing scenario for the Eagles, right, to go ahead and get a player like that. But like you said, hey, they had the draft capital. They built up the draft capital to be able to do it. And then you look at like specifically that position, let's say 3-tech, you put Jordan Davis in the middle at nose. Now you're 3-tech. Fletcher Cox might be a Hall of Famer. I don't know, probably in that, this Hall of Fame discussion, but he's not a young pup anymore. Mm-hmm. You have Ndamukong Suh, who they picked up. He's not a young player anymore. Linval Joseph's not a young player anymore. So you do probably eventually are going to have a need at 3-tech. And I mean, Jalen Carter's pretty good. So I think that would be really cool for them to go get him.
It seems that I've created a riff in the chat here. AJ said, hadn't considered that, but I like it for the Eagles. That would be kind of sweet. Walt saying, that's silly talk. The Eagles moving up for Carter. Walt, scared to be great. Hate to see that on a Friday. Don't love that. TJ saying the Cardinals should draft Verse if they're moving back to that spot. Nico saying, don't the Cardinals need that kind of a pick at number 4? They would. I mean, like, the Cardinals would love to get a great defensive lineman like Jalen Carter, but there's a ton of holes on the Cardinals roster. I also don't think the Cardinals are close to competing. Like, I think the Cardinals are more at a point where this offseason they should probably change Steve Keim. They should change Cliff Kingsbury. Their roster is going to get a lot worse. I just think that you got to be honest with where you are in your team. And if you got a new regime coming in, you're rebuilding a little bit here. So why not go get 2 first-round picks? You can still get a really nice defensive line player, like TJ said, with that pick at number 10, and then you can get another bonus first-rounder at the end of the first round. Plus, you're picking early in the second round, too, I think. Aren't they? They still have – oh, no. Oh, do they still have their second-round pick from this year? Did they trade it? No, they still got it.
The Hollywood.
We're good. We're all stacked up. All right, those are our draft scenarios. You guys continue to let us know some draft scenarios that you guys love.
Trev, what are your plans for the future now that you're going to be unemployed, like me, for saying that a team should trade up in the draft?
I think I'll probably just like go get a houseboat somewhere. Just like park it down in a Caribbean area. Just kind of like go around, learn to fish, learn the fishing trade, both for sustenance and then also for some money as well. Maybe a bartender on the weekends, maybe one of the islands there, just kind of like the Shane Flacco life or the Shane Falco life, from The Replacements, just living on a houseboat, drinking beer, fishing. Smelling.
That's such a Tampa Bay thing. Oh my God. Like living on a houseboat is not the first thing that comes to my mind. Living in this winter paradise outside right now.
Paradise? Paradise?
It's not a paradise.
Yeah, but what if you Yeah, but what if you lived in a houseboat on a frozen lake? You know, think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, I would be sure. I don't think there's a lot of houseboats here in Montreal, but it's again a very Tampa Bay type of fantasy.
What are you going to do? You going to become a lumberjack? What are you going to do? You just going to go be like one with the winter? You and like a bunch of wolves just like hanging out up there in Canada?
I saw a documentary on a Russian fur trader in the 90s or the 80s or something like that. Very, very interesting life. And I'm very much willing to go forth into the north.
If you just grow your beard out a little bit longer, I could see it. I really could see it.
Yeah.
You know, analytics and fur trading, like that could be your thing. You know, that could be, you could update the Twitter bio, and I think that they just flood to you. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some playoff scenarios that we would love to see. I can't say really outside of the changes that we talked about earlier at the top of the show because we have to consider those. But when you look at the teams that we think have a chance to make the playoffs, whether it's wild card round, divisional round, AFC Championship round, Super Bowl, whatever it is, what's a playoff matchup that you would love to see for whatever reason?
I'll start the NFC title game. Eagles versus Cowboys. We've had two good games so far this season between these two. And obviously, like, it's the Eagles Cowboys. It's a huge rivalry. It would be insane to get them in a championship game. We obviously don't see a ton of division rivals in the championship game. This would be as fun as anything. I'm a big Dak Prescott guy. I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy as well, but I'm a big Dak Prescott believer. So I think that this would be vindication, them getting to the NFC Championship game and then obviously potentially winning it. So I'm down for this scenario. Again, the caveat of all caveats, as you know,
of course,
assuming the NFL doesn't go to 8 teams, then
they're not going to go to 8 teams.
NFC Championship game.
They're not going to go to 8 teams. It's not going to happen. The Saints are dead for this year.
Right, fine.
This year. I'll stick with the Eagles. I would love to see the San Francisco 49ers versus the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I mean, these are just the two best teams in the division, I think, especially when healthy. I don't know what Lane Johnson's status is going to be. Obviously, he had that abdominal tear that has caused him to miss some time and might miss some time into the playoffs at least. I don't know how healthy he can really be. I'm not an expert on abdominal tears, and so I don't know how healthy he could even be as we get further into the playoffs. But if we can get a somewhat healthy Jalen Hurts, right, a somewhat healthy Lane Johnson, then the 49ers versus the Eagles, I mean, it's just two of the best teams in the NFL, certainly what I think are the two best teams in the in that conference. Would love to see it. Whether it's in San Francisco or whether it's in Philadelphia, I don't really care. These are just two of the best teams with some of the best head coaches in the NFL, some of the best coordinators in the NFL going up against each other, and of course some of the best superstars as well. So that's my major matchup that I would love to see in that one.
I'll also add, it's not really a playoff matchup. It's more what I need to happen. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing in the first round of the playoffs is what I need to happen.
Oh, that's not happening. You know it's not happening. They're gonna play the Cowboys, and Brady's gonna beat the Cowboys because he always beats the Cowboys.
They play. I know Dak got injured at week 1, but they won that game. They won last year, week 1 as well. So it's as much as the Cowboys are playing really good, and you're going to play a team who might be who's like really just hasn't had a good season. We just know that hasn't had a good season, kind of backs their way into the playoffs. It's not a great matchup for the Cowboys, so I'm not happy about that.
No. All right, what's your other one? We got one more each. What's your next one?
Anytime this happens, I don't care which round it is. Burrow versus Herbert, the two of my favorite quarterbacks. So I'd be sad for whoever lost. I'd be happy for everyone. But this is the future of the NFL right here. Burrow versus Herbert needs to happen.
Ooh, nice.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to say. Everyone watching this show understands how important this game would be. So Burrow versus Herbert.
Can they play in the first round? Can they still play in the first round?
Yeah, I think if the Ravens win and the Chargers, it's some weird case scenario like that. If the Chargers, it might be if the Chargers lose.
Because then Yeah, the Chargers have to lose and the Ravens have to win, right? Because then that would make the Bengals the 3 seed and the Chargers the 6 seed.
Yeah, and then the Ravens would jump up to 5.
And then the Ravens would play our Jaguars. What are you laughing for? It is. The whole country is Jags fans. Even Titans fans are Jags fans at this point. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. My next playoff scenario that I would love to see, you mentioned a part 3 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. I want to see part 3, Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings. I want to see it, baby. I don't think it's going to happen because in order for it to happen, the Niners would have to lose this week hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Probably not. And then the Vikings would obviously have to beat the Bears, so they would then jump back up to the number 2 seed. The Packers would have to win against the Detroit Lions, so then the Packers would be the 7th seed, but then we would get it. But I would love to see it. You had the incredible, the improbable Justin Jefferson game to start the season with the Vikings and the Packers. Vikings picking up a huge win there. But this is such a different Packers team, and we saw it last week with how they played against the Vikings. Massive win as well. I'd love to see the rubber match. I would love to see this in the playoffs. I don't think we get it, but I'd love to see it.
Any type of like third match where the teams have split in the regular season is super interesting. Yes. So kind of like I said with the Eagles Cowboys, 1-1 in the regular season, and then getting a playoff game I think is super interesting.
Chat doesn't like the Packers Vikings matchup, but
as you can tell by my response, I don't really like it either, to be honest.
But that's fine. But I also have to admit that the chat is very pro Lions. So the chat always wants the Lions to win to get into the playoffs. And all right, fine, chat. Lions make the playoffs. Lions versus 49ers. Lions upset the San Francisco 49ers. That's the matchup that I want. Are you happy? I said it. Are you happy? Let's do some bold predictions before we get out of here. We've each got a couple of bold predictions that we want to see for this weekend. Week 18, final week of the regular season in the NFL. Seth, what is your number 1 bold prediction for this week?
Number 1 bold prediction, and bold, like underline bold, because it means it's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
It means it's not going to happen at all.
Okay.
And it's I win every single bet that I make this weekend on the NFL.
How many bets on average do you think you make? Like, what are we talking here?
I'm not a volume guy. I try to pick my spots.
Okay.
I will say that before the TCU Michigan game last Saturday, I was up 70% over the year. And once the clock struck 0 in that game, I was up only 30% on the year. So clearly, I need to rebound this week with some big time.
So you don't place a lot of bets, but you also placed a lot of bets on Michigan, is what I'm hearing.
I chased Michigan very hard in that game, and it did not end well for me. So that's my bold prediction: is that I win all the bets, and then I can fund your houseboat
wonderful
bartender lifestyle.
Thank you. I would really appreciate it. How many live bets did you place last week? Just live bets.
I'll say that it was only 3.
You don't have to tell me how much.
But I'll say that I.
Go ahead.
I went. I started I took Michigan at minus 9.5 because I thought they were going to blow them out.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
So I pushed that number up a bit. Then as the game was going on, I was like, Michigan's still playing well even though they're losing. So I took them at minus 2.5. I was like, okay, well now minus 2.5, that's easy. And then I took them at Michigan money line straight up as the game was going on. So just really embarrassing stuff, and I can't believe I'm saying it out loud. But not a great New Year's for me.
You are not alone. That's all I'm saying is that you are absolutely not alone. There are a lot of people who bet Michigan, who probably bet Michigan live. I bet there's people in the chat that bet Michigan live. If anybody bet Michigan live in the chat, there are dozens of you. Dozens. All right, my first bold prediction. I was wrong on this one last week, but I'm ready to go back to this well again. Sam Howell throws his first touchdown of his NFL career before Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder burned me last week. I said that Ridder was going to not only throw his first touchdown of his career, but he was going to have multiple touchdowns in the game last week. He had 0. It's 3 weeks in a row now. Hasn't had a touchdown pass. Howell's passing him up. I'm sick of it. Not betting on Ritter anymore. And instead, I'm going with Sam Howell. Could very well happen that both of these guys obviously throw their first touchdown pass, but I will say that Sam Howell throws his first NFL touchdown pass, getting his first start this weekend, Washington Commanders versus the Dallas Cowboys. Would love to see it. Seth, what do you think?
Yeah, and you know, that would be great if he plays well and they win, because I think Ron Rivera still thinks that they can get in with a win this week. So go Commanders.
You have so much enthusiasm with that one. All right, what's your second one? What's your second bold prediction?
My second bold prediction. All right, so I don't want this to happen. I just think it would be kind of funny, and I really don't want this to happen because, like America, the rest of America, I am team Jacksonville Jaguars. But it would be very funny to have the Jaguars be upset by the Titans in Jacksonville. You know, all they need is a win to get into the playoffs. It's so obvious. The Titans are playing their third string quarterback. Basically, the Jaguars are on such an unbelievable run. They're playing great football. And for them to lose kind of in the same way that they beat the Colts last year, when we all thought, oh, the Colts are very obviously going to be in the playoffs. All they have to do is go to Jacksonville, beat the Jaguars, and they just completely fell on their face. I think it would be funny. Again, I don't want it to happen. I just think it would be funny, the parallels there year to year.
I would hate it.
I would hate it too.
This is a bold prediction, though. I can't get mad at you. This is a bold prediction. You are doing the segment the way that it was supposed to, but I'd hate it. And if it happens, I don't know. I'm just gonna be really mad at you, is what I'm gonna say. I know that's harsh, but that's what I'm saying. My second bold prediction, I said this earlier in the week, I feel like this is a lock. Panthers are getting 3.5 against your New Orleans Saints. Panthers are winning this football game. I got the Panthers upsetting.
How do I leave this Zoom?
I got the Panthers upsetting. Look at that Sam Darnold beard. Look at it. This man has been through the ringer of what happens to be an NFL quarterback's journey. Look, Sam Darnold actually, all trolling and sarcasm aside, Sam Darnold has played decently well since he has been the starting quarterback. It's not like he has totally willed his team or thrown his team to victory, but he's not turning the ball over as much. He's not trying to be something he's not. He's taking care of the football. And obviously last game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was decent. It was fine. Tom Brady and Mike Evans just had an insane day, and they weren't going to keep up on the scoreboard. So I think the Panthers are the better team. I don't think that the Panthers being out of playoff contention is going to be less motivating for them at all. I think that the Panthers players have had to listen all year long, say, yeah, Steve Wilkes, he's a nice story, but he's not a real head coach candidate. I think they're going to want to go out there and genuinely play the best they possibly can for Steve Wilkes to end the season strong because of what Steve Wilkes has done for them, kind of picking up the pieces after Matt Rule got fired. I really do think the Panthers are going to give it their absolute best this weekend. And not only do I think that they're going to cover with the 3.5 points, I think that they are going to win this football game. So I think that the Panthers upset the Saints. Seth, we now go live to you.
Just an incredibly impassioned plea, only to be wrong in 48 hours. So I give you credit for that, because you really went out there, hard on a sleeve type of situation, and you are just going to be so wrong. I will say at this point, I know the Saints don't have a first round pick, so like, it's irrelevant, like one spot or two spots in the draft in the second round, but I'm okay if they lose this week, though. At the end of the day, like, the Saints they've been fun the last few weeks, the last month, so kind of hoping they win and at least give me some hope going into next season.
Last bold prediction, what do we got?
So I think the Seahawks are going to make the playoffs, which would mean Seahawks winning at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then the Lions would know that I could be wrong about this, but I think the Lions would now know at the 8 p.m. start that they're not making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I still think the Lions would come out and really try and make a statement, whether they know or not that they're making the playoffs. They would come out there and try and make a statement to still beat the Packers. And I think they can do it. I think that they won't be shut down. Both teams, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, to be honest. It was 15-8 in week 9. It won't be 15-8 again. I think the Lions are going to come out, throw the football, play action, and score a lot of points.
The media actually asked Dan Campbell about this earlier this week. Dan Campbell, on potentially knowing that they are eliminated before even getting to kickoff on Sunday night. Quote, there's one objective, and that's winning the game. It's us or it's nobody. And he's just like, that's the mentality that they're going to have going into this game. I still think that it's going to be a fiery game no matter what. They're either going to be playing for their playoff lives or they're going to be playing spoiler. So, okay, you think that the Seahawks are going to make the playoffs. My bold prediction, it might be the boldest of them all. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson scores a touchdown this week. It's happening. It's happening, folks. The record falls or the record stops this week. Deontay Johnson currently has the NFL record for most targets without a touchdown in a season. He has 137 targets, 84 catches, and 844 receiving yards, no touchdowns. He's the first player to ever have more than 109 not have any touchdowns on the season. Folks, you look at what Kenny Pickett did last week. 4 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays, the best game of his young career. He's getting Deontay in the end zone. Let's see it. Let's see it, Kenny. Let it fly, my guy. That's what I want to see. They're playing the Browns. It's awesome. They're at home. It's against the Browns. I want to see it for Deontay. Go ahead.
No, I'm done with you. I don't care.
Oh, good.
An addendum to my Seahawks are going to make the playoffs. Bold prediction is that, of course, I have money on the Seahawks to make the playoffs from like 2 months ago. So this is really, as you can see, I've become I only started betting like 3 months ago, and I've become such a degenerate. This is all I care about.
Yeah. So sports betting became legal in Ohio a couple of days ago at the start of the new year, and so I have only placed bets on things that either get me more free bet money or extremely boosted stuff like there being 1 passing yard total in a game or one rebound total in a game or whatever. So I've only bet on those things. So your boy's doing well. Boy's doing well right now. It's tempting not to lay it all on the line.
You can fund my logger, my fur trading logger behavior.
Yeah. I will purchase your first, I don't know, coat.
The hat with the flaps.
Yeah. Is there a specific name for that? Do you know what is?
I think a bundle of fur is called a pelt, if I'm not mistaken.
A pelt?
I believe so.
All right.
You got to buy a pelt from Seth.
All right, I'm going to buy a pelt from Seth with all the money that I'm winning, the free money that I'm winning, now that I can bet in Ohio. Before we get out of here, got to point you guys to our favorite place to throw some money on the line when it comes to NFL action. It's our friends over at BroThrow. Go to brothrow.com/PFF for the BroThrow Throwdown every single week. You guys can check out the group and be able to bet with the people that you're talking with in the chat right now. So if somebody's been talking smack, like through all the segments that we went through, teams making the playoffs, teams drafting this, whatever, if you guys have been going at it and you got differing opinions, you could settle it right on BroThrow. Just be like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. All right, you think this team's making the playoffs? You think this team's going to win this weekend? I'll bet you $10. And the best part about it is BroThrow is not a sports book, so it's not like you got to bet $11 to win $10, nothing like that. There's no juice on this. It's just peer-to-peer. It's you and somebody else. There's pride on the line. There's money on the line. It's beautiful. If you go in there right now, Eli's got a $15 bet on the Colts covering 2.5 as the favorites against the Texans, while Nathan's on the other side of it. He's got $10 on the line saying that the Texans are going to win this game with the 3 points. Ooh. Andrew's got $50 on the line saying that the Raiders are going to cover this game with 9.5. So if you think the Chiefs are going to blow them out, you can win yourself $50. Justin's also got a bet in here. $50 on the Giants. The Giants are getting 2 touchdowns. The Giants are getting 14 against the Eagles. Eagles got everything to play for. Giants got nothing to play for. That's a beautiful one. You could bet on any game, and you can put it over on BroThrow. I think I might take Eli's bet.
You really don't want to do that after I was in your head so hard in trivia this week.
No, I think I might
Monday would be a nightmare for you.
I think I might need to get a little bit of revenge here. revenge. Might be taking his bet. Or if you guys place a bet over at brothrow.com/PFF, if you see a line that you love, then maybe myself, maybe Seth, maybe even Mike, wherever he is in the world, could end up taking that bet. But head over to brothrow.com/PFF. It's a great place to throw some money on the line for NFL games this weekend. Quinn, can we get an answer to your question of the day before we get your answer from our question of the day? So just to give everybody a refresher to get your final answers in, the question is very simple. What is Andy Dalton's adjusted completion percentage this season? I say it's 83.4%. Seth, what are you going with?
98.4, 98.3, something
It's
like that.
probably not.
No,
that.
I'll say 82.3.
Close. 77.5. That's still a good adjustment.
It's really, oh man,
Pretty
I thought
good.
it'd be in the 80s. Thought it'd be in the 80s.
career high, though. Like I said, Andy's been dealing.
Yeah, wheeling, dealing. What's
Quinn, you don't want to see Andy in the playoffs finally win a playoff game?
Yes, I would love to see Andy in the playoffs finally win a playoff game. What I don't want to see is Bengals Saints in the Super Bowl. That would
Why?
be tough.
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, I know who I'd be rooting for. Obviously, but like, I would hate.
Yeah, be real about it. No, it wouldn't.
I would hate for it to be against Andy. Actually, no, I wouldn't because they would fucking steamroll the Saints. That'd be sweet.
Sure.
Go Andy.
Just the team
though.
that's
Wait, what
5-2
was
in their last 7 or 5-1 in their last 6. It's like whatever.
Okay, what was Seth? What was your question of the day?
The only other quarterback to start for both the Bengals and the Saints.
So I think I know this because he's one of my favorite Bengals of all time. And if I don't, then I have no handle on this whatsoever. But is it Jeff Blake?
It's Jeff Blake.
Yep. Because that was like right around the was that like right before the Aaron Brooks era? Or like right around that same time?
He got injured.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah,
Same
so
time.
they were having a good season and he got injured. And then Brooks came in, and I guess the rest is history.
I have a Jeff Blake t-shirt. Shaking Blake, Corey Dillon.
I have an Aaron Brooks jersey, so there you go.
Wow. I had a Brad Johnson jersey. I don't know.
Did you have the elbow pads that go with it?
No, I wasn't that committed.
Elbow pad, Brad.
I wasn't that committed. I'm trying to think of Bucks jerseys that I had growing up. Actually, let me think of all the jerseys I had growing up. Okay, I had a Champ Bailey Broncos jersey. I had a Charles Woodson Raiders jersey. I had a Tampa Bay Buccaneers Derek Brooks jersey. I had a Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cadillac Williams jersey. I think I had a Keyshawn Johnson jersey. And then the absolute gem was a Steve Slayton West Virginia Mountaineers jersey. And I think those are
That's a good college jersey.
I think those are the
He's a good
only
player.
jerseys that I had.
What about the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Oh yeah, so I have a Vincent Lecavalier jersey.
Woo!
I have like the black alternate practice jersey. And also when I was a kid, you better believe I had those funky ass lightning jerseys, the alternates with the lightning bolts coming up the arms. You better believe that I had one of those and I rocked it all the time. So those are the lightning jerseys that I had.
I love it. Couple. You got a nice Quebecer on the back of your jersey. I love it. Love to see it.
Yeah, truly love to see it. Do we have a chat champ before we get out of here?
We do. It is Trevor Joseph. At the beginning of chat, I said, let's get it chat, but said cat, and then he called you Trevor Sikkema, and it made me laugh.
That works.
Someone who shares my first name coming after me and my last name.
It's more so coming at me because I'm an idiot and can't type, so.
Let's go, Cat. Let's go, Cat.
Okay, I have a picture of me in a jersey.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put my phone up to the camera here.
I don't
so
know.
it's gonna be a little awkward.
I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's.
But,
All right, let's see it.
Hold on.
Let's see it. This is a Packers jersey?
That's that's me in a Brett Favre jersey.
Oh my
right there.
gosh.
Yeah.
That didn't age well.
No, didn't age well. Nothing about this picture has aged well.
I don't know. The bookcase looks pretty robust. I mean, I'm sure the bookcase is probably still great, but outside of it, that That might be it. All right. Congrats to Trevor Joseph being the chat champ. You get to be chat champ for the weekend. You get to carry the crown for an extra couple of days, and you get to be chat champ for Monday's show, which is a monumental one because we are going to be recapping everything that we see from the final week of the regular season. We're going to have a locked-in draft order. We're going to have locked-in playoff spots. Oh, there's going to be so much that we get to talk about. Seth, any final takes, thoughts, words, anything before we get out of here? That's it. That's it, folks. That's it. He's ending on the ending on the throwback picture. He's ending on the throwback Thursday. Seth, thank you so much for joining me, man. I always get to I always enjoy when we get to co-host together. So I do appreciate you joining me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime, buddy. Always a pleasure.
All right, y'all. For Trevor Sikkema, for Seth Galina, for everybody in the production portal, for Mike Renner, wherever he is. Have a great weekend, chat. We love you. We will see you guys right here, same time on Monday for It's Just Football. See you guys then.
It's not about politics, it's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. We're just going to play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
Not just get in and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.